Hello, this is Dr. Dave Maslach talking about reciprocity.com. The E is spelled with a 3. It's a platform. So I'm a professor of innovation strategy and entrepreneurship, and it's a platform that I'm trying to build to help you get feedback on your writing so you can become a much more prolific writer and scholar. In this particular video, I really want to talk about the benefits and costs of attending academic conferences. This is part of my Thesis Help series that I put out in terms of helping out graduate students. In fact, that's the reason why I actually created Reciprocity, is to eventually help out graduate students. If it ever makes money, if it ever becomes profitable, that I would actually like to give back and create scholarships and stuff like that in the behavioral sciences. So with that, what I'm going to do in this particular video is talk to you about the benefits and costs of attending academic conferences. I'm going to get into exactly what do I mean by what is an academic conference, and then first of all talk about the costs, and then leave on a positive note and talk about the benefits of attending academic conferences, right? So this is probably geared towards those that are going into graduate school. Maybe you're thinking of going into graduate school. Maybe you're a PhD student or a master's student at this time, and you're looking for help in terms of advice and what you should do and whatnot. I always found it was really helpful to get this kind of advice. So an academic conference is a conference. It's a group or a meeting where people attend, other academics attend, where you can present your research and have it reviewed or sort of vetted by other people in the field. And often what happens is you submit your paper, your research paper, to the conference, and then it will get peer reviewed. Really good conferences will be blind peer reviewed, double-blind peer reviewed. You're not going to know who the reviewers are, and they're going to give you some feedback. And there's a really valuable part of that when you get that at a really good conference, that you do get that. That particular peer feedback at the get-go. And sometimes even if you do get rejected, it's actually a really positive thing, because you get this feedback before you can go, right? Or before you actually get anything done. So I'd recommend actually just submitting or thinking about submitting from time to time to academic conferences. So what are the costs of attending academic conferences? Well, first of all, this is a really, 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 really big one that you should be concerned with. It's the opportunity costs. So each moment that you're preparing and thinking about going to a particular conference, presenting, you're thinking about your presentation and whatnot, all of that is opportunity costs. So that is stuff, that is effort and resources that you could have been spending on something else, and that would be writing and doing research, right? So that's really important. Attending conferences, especially when you're really junior, if you're a new graduate student, or maybe you're just a senior undergraduate student and you're thinking of doing that, you probably are going to spend, you might spend 2 weeks preparing for this conference, just planning it out and thinking about it. And, if you're presenting, going through the presentation to make sure that everything is great, well, that consumes a lot of time and effort that you could be spending on writing and developing the particular idea that you have a little bit more. Now, it's really helpful because you are going to get some feedback along the way when you do those academic conferences, but you do have to think about these opportunity costs. It's really incredibly important whenever you attend any academic conference. The second thing is you have to worry about sort of illegitimacy discounts that you might get. And this is kind of a real thing that we talk about in sociology, where sometimes people get a penalty from a particular status or affiliating with a particular group. So sometimes if you go to the wrong conference, so you go to a conference that is maybe not, at the highest level of that it could be, and you have that on your resume, your Vita, your CV, that could be considered, you can actually get a penalty from attending that particular conference because it's not considered legitimate. And there's lots of conferences that are not considered legitimate, and you probably might not want to go to those particular ones, right? There's a whole industry around academic conferences and getting people to attend. So you have to be very careful, and you have to be very picky and choosy on which ones you attend. The other thing is, say you attend the major conference in your field, right? So it's American Sociological Association, American Economic Association, Academy of Management, a large, a really big conference where there's thousands and thousands of people that are there. And that you are presenting. Let's say you're presenting, and then you goof at that presentation. Well, there might be somebody in the presentation, in the audience that might be paying attention, and they might not necessarily approve of the thing that you've done, and it might actually harm you in the long run in terms of your job prospects if you're not quite ready. And now I know you're never quite ready and whatnot, but there is a moment where you should really think about that, whether you're ready to go or not, and give a presentation, even if you do get it accepted. Now, normally at a good enough conference, that acceptance is usually an indicator that it's good enough, but sometimes it's, there's mixed signals and stuff like that along the way. The third thing that you have to worry about is the financial costs. So financial costs, I mean sort of monetary costs that is associated with it. So let's say you're in graduate school. Most major graduate schools are going to give you some sort of stipend to attend a particular academic conference, whether it's $1,000, $2,000, something like that, right? Depending on the field that you're in, maybe it's $500. Well, there is, if you can find a conference and attend a conference for, under $2,000, you're pretty amazing, because there's not a lot of conferences that once you add it all up, it's going to cost you more than $2,000 by the time you stay in a hotel, by the time you pay conference fees, by the time you pay for food, all that kind of stuff. It's going to be pretty expensive, and so you're going to be bearing some of the costs of attending that particular conference. Now, there's ways that you can reduce the financial burden of attending academic conferences, and I would highly recommend them. First of all, don't attend the conference too long, right? Just stay in a real bare minimum hotel, and maybe you bunk up with somebody else. There's lots of different tricks like that. One time, my own experience, I slept in an airport overnight to reduce my costs. And in that, it was uncomfortable, but at the same time, it sort of reduced the cost of attending this particular large conference. And I was able to go and attend and, definitely reduce the cost. So those are the really big things that you have to worry about, the sort of major costs. And maybe there's more. I don't know. You could leave comments if you want. But generally, those are the three big things that I can think of at this moment. And now, what are the benefits of attending academic conferences? Well, there is a lot of benefits. The first one is just I already mentioned the access to getting feedback on your work. That's a really incredible thing. So I'm going to call this access to new information, right? So you are getting feedback on your own work, and that feedback is going to benefit you in some way or another. The other thing is, often you're going to attend other people's presentations. I'd highly recommend that you attend really good researchers and listen to their presentations, because you're going to learn a lot. That you are, you're probably going to learn that you're probably far off, and that you have a lot more to go, and people are coming up with all sorts of really cool ideas and stuff like that. So I'd highly recommend that you attend to get that information, right? To get that new information that is usually at the cutting edge. So this is usually a conference. The material presented at the conference is usually kind of really rough. It's not the stuff that's going to be in a academic article by any means, but it is the start. So you're going to get the newer ideas that are available, and it really does help. And the second sort of benefit that you get is access to new opportunities. This is a really important thing. So those of you who study sort of networking and how relationships form, networks and relationships, they transfer a lot of different things, right? So it might be information, might be opportunities, might be knowledge. these are all things that get transferred whenever people sort of convene at a particular place. You can get these sort of network effects going on, right? So it's quickly, you can get passed on, the information can get passed on between people, and often you'll bump into somebody that you would never bump into before. Now, I'd highly recommend that you attend smaller, really good conferences rather than the larger, bigger ones. The reason why you might attend sort of larger, bigger ones is to gain some sort of status effect on your CV or your resume. That way you can say, oh, I went to American Economics Association's conference or something like that, right? That you can say that you went to this particular prestigious conference, but you're not going to meet a lot of people at those because it's kind of really... the atmosphere is not conducive. Let's just say that. It's not conducive to meeting a lot of people unless you're very, very outgoing to a number of different degrees. But if you go to a small, really elite conference, you can get access to people that you would normally not be able to get access to and be able to talk to them and have friends, carry on a conversation with those particular people. And it's really, really fun. I can still remember the first time I gave a presentation. I study learning from failure, and I was studying how medical device companies learn from failure. And in this particular one, there was one of the lead people from NASA that were there. And this was a few years after, I think it was the Challenger disaster, right? What was the Columbia disaster, the last one. I can't remember which one is which. I should know that. But, it was just shortly after that. So they were listening to my presentation, which was really interesting. It was really fun to see that somebody was there that was doing similar stuff at NASA. And I thought that was really neat. And it stuck with me for a long time, right? So the third thing that's really, really important that you shouldn't discount, and, it's one of the fun things that you get to do in any academic career is to travel and do these kind of things and meet people. So you can often go to really interesting places, for example. You can meet new friends. So that whole fun and friendship component of it is really incredibly important in terms of just giving you motivation to keep pursuing the academic career, right? Because academia is it's a grind sometimes. So just having that, knowing that maybe in 4 more months, you're going to be going to this destination, that's going to help you keep you motivated to keep going and to have fun, right? To acknowledge that this is not just about work, that there is a degree of friendship that is formed and to some degree sort of academic sightseeing that happens, where you might spend a couple of hours going and touring a different location when you travel. So, and that's all I have to say. If you like this video, make sure you do a thumbs up or leave some comments if you have other suggestions that are missing things. Again, the Reciprocity Project is to help out graduate students. So thank you so much for following along, all of you that are following along. And I appreciate everything. Take care. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.